in an analogical term, I would say security today means that you should be at an intersection of a highway where there are cross paths, but you still need to be left untouched by any of the vehicles. So that's
Is there truly friction between security teams and the people that they serve within organizations? Is there questions that you may have about some of the different types of ways that you can get into cybersecurity, maybe the best path or the best mindset? Well, here are some of the questions that I answer in this episode with Archie Jackson, and I'm excited to just release this guy to you to share some of his thoughts, his insights about the world of cybersecurity. And as we start to just dive into some of his mindset and perspectives around the different types of ways that you can help lead your organization through a digital transformation that allows both security teams and your end users to come together and create a unique synergy when it comes to cybersecurity inside of your organization. My name is Eddie Thomason, and I'm the host of the Simply Secure podcast, where we chat with cybersecurity leaders about how to bridge the gap between security teams and the people that they serve in their organizations. If you want to learn more about the individual perspectives, beliefs, and best practices of very successful cybersecurity leaders, I highly recommend you hit the subscribe button and make sure that you become a part of this community, because there's a lot of valuable information. So excited to have you guys hear from Archie Jackson, who's been a professional inside of the cybersecurity industry for over 2 decades. And listen, this guy is a wealth of knowledge. He's won multiple different rewards voted by many of his peers inside of the industry. And he has a lot of information and tips and feedback that's going to help you really take your organization, or even if you're first starting out inside of this cybersecurity space, helping you really navigate what to do next and what to do now to position yourself to be very successful inside of this industry. So here we go. Awesome. All right, guys, we got Archie in the room with us today. He's going to be chatting through some of the different information things that he's learned inside of this incredible industry that we all operate inside of, the cybersecurity industry. But real quick, before we jump into too much stuff, Archie, let the people know who you are, man. Give them a little bit of your background, your bio, and what you're excited about.
thanks, Eddie. Really excited to be on this podcast. Thanks for inviting me. Um, I I'm a geek in terms of cybersecurity, as people may know, and I help organizations in the digital transformation journey from cybersecurity, from technology aspects, and that's all about it. More coming forward in the conversation.
Absolutely. And where you're located, Archie?
I'm located way, way, way away right now. It's in India.
Solid. Always like to bring it up because I love the fact that obviously technology has come such a long way that two people in two completely different time zones can have a great conversation. And I know it's late on your end. Technically, it's still early on my end, but late on your end. So I do appreciate you taking the time to jump in here and actually have a conversation, right? Um, but real quick, man, just want to dive into it. I always like to ask this to kind of start things off. What inspired you to get into this industry? What inspired the cybersecurity space? Was it something that you had a mindset from the very beginning? It was like, this is where I want to do, or this is where I want to go, or was it something that you just kind of stumbled into and made the most out of it? Made the most out of it when you were there.
Well, we all know it's a VUCA world. So whatever you plan for today or tomorrow as a long term,
Mm-hmm.
it's all volatile, uncertain, complex, and
Yep.
ambiguous. So things may fall off, things may change. So it has never been long term. I never planned to be into
Mm-hmm.
cybersecurity. However, the entire due course of journey of 22 years into technology, industry, infrastructure, and then toning into cybersecurity. So finally found and landed into a place where I found places where people can or businesses could be disrupted,
Mm-hmm.
and there may be a lot of impact, a lot of challenges because of malwares and threats that are there outside in the environment.
Mm-hmm.
So why not solve those problems and help businesses to flourish, businesses to expand, sail up well?
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what interests me. And also being into, as the technology is ramping up, technology is
Hmm.
changing, there's, I mean, an exponential scope of learning, adding more value, being innovative, more creative,
Hmm.
and solving problems.
Absolutely. I love, so first of all, I love that entire thought process because you really, you communicated what I feel as though a lot of people find themselves in, right? Is the fact that unless you're, maybe 15, 16 years old right now, right? When you're our age, you don't really stumble in and be like, oh yeah, I want to be in cybersecurity. You just, it's just something that you kind of stumble into. But then at the same time, um, it's a passion, right? It's kind of like a passion project because you want to make sure that people have what
Absolutely.
they need to make sure that information is really secure across organizations, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Overall, toned my way. I've been into business. I've been into support. I've been into core service management. I've been into infrastructure
Mhm.
applications, and then landed into the core cybersecurity that takes care of everything.
Absolutely. I love it. So I'm just curious, and this is obviously, not a scripted thing. Just curious because you mentioned a couple of different roles that you've been inside of until you landed into this place of cybersecurity. Can you give, if you were had to go back, start all over again, everything else, or even giving advice to somebody that is maybe 15, 16 years old, they're about to go into a college type of environment, where would you recommend that they start? Is there a not necessarily a formula, but is there like some recommendations on, hey, you want to basically dabble in a bunch of different things, or would you recommend that they focus on, say, network security or some other type of specific security before they start really diving into cybersecurity as a whole?
Great question. To achieve a specialization,
Hmm.
it cannot be on a single track. You have to be multidisciplinary and expanded scope of
Yep.
learning. So the advice to the youngsters who want to start their career
Hmm.
or want to land into
Hmm.
cybersecurity, my advice would be, um, have the security mindset.
Hmm.
Try focusing from the risk aspect, understand how cybersecurity impacts day-to-day life.
Hmm.
And for example, if we are, I mean, if we are into, let's say, cloud technology, infrastructure applications, even somebody who has been into support, somebody who has focused onto customer centricity, or let's say customers problem solving,
Hmm.
that is the fundamental core where everything triggers from.
Hmm.
If we are able to understand and empathize what customer
Yep.
needs, say it be basic solution to a
Yep.
problem, eventually that mindset helps us develop our way forward into the career, because eventually those learning paths
Hmm.
would be constructing our career. And the best advice around this is, first of all, focus onto the security mindset. And
Gotcha.
by security mindset is question everything as why that is happening. If we are able to question why, and instead of simply plunging
Yep.
into it, why I'm doing so, why am I asked to do so? So if we have that mindset, that's what would cultivate into cybersecurity as a skill.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you went into what security mindset is because that was definitely going to be my next question. Because when you, as soon as you said it, when you first started that last answer in itself, I was like, man, security mindset, that's good, that's gold right there. So I appreciate you sharing that because it is true, right? Trying to questioning why, right? I heard on a another show that I was listening to was basically not allowing somebody to tell you that something in security cannot be done, but you figure out if it needs to be done, and if it's not done yet, you go figure out how to do it. Would you say that's pretty much how you summarize what security is?
Absolutely, absolutely,
That's
absolutely.
awesome. So real quick, I know we had a little bit of a conversation offline before we even got on and started chatting through right now live. But something that we talked about the very first time that we had a conversation was the idea between security and people, right? Like this idea that 50%, it's like kind of a 50-50 split between people who think You should share everything that you know about security to a like an open community so that everybody can learn. And then there's a 50-50, the other 50% is like, no, we don't want to share anything because that means that our information is out there and we can't, they kind of create this silo, this wall. Just communicate real quick. Where do you feel like you stand, Archie? And actually answer that first, and then we'll kind of dovetail off of that.
I'm extremely on the latter side because I share
Yep.
everything, and the irrespective I want to carry, I try to carry, and I try to maintain the security mindset.
Hmm.
Still, sharing would never be a security risk because it will help. First, there should be a risk appetite
Hmm.
of every individual when they're sharing, and from that particular aspect I won't end up sharing my personal banking passwords and all those
Yep.
details. That's the basic things. However, I mean, in the simplest terms of getting into anybody's personal information, or let's say banking, or compromising any data,
Hmm.
all you need is a phone number. I mean, if you have a phone number of
Yep.
anybody, you can get into
Right.
anything. So that's how we are open about it. It's the mindset. I mean, if the other side is thinking,
Hmm.
if there's a thought process that if I refrain from sharing, if I keep it to myself, I'm secure.
Hmm.
That's a fairy tale. That's a myth.
Yes.
However, if you're sharing it, still you're opening it up. Your data, your information is still
Hmm.
somewhere out there. If you're sharing it, it is helping somebody to develop their scope, their mindset
Yep.
into those particular
I
directions.
love it. I love it. I call it a differentiation between lack mentality and abundance mentality, right? Um, Having that
Absolutely.
that mindset that, oh, I have to be scarce with information because there's not enough. If I share what I have, then I'm going to lose what I have, right? Compared the abundance mentality is, if I share what I have, I'm going to gain more benefit from that than not, right? So I love
True.
that. I love that you communicated that. And that actually, kind of dovetails me into this thought, this realm of security teams and their people, right? Because we talked about that too a little bit offline. And it's honestly one of the biggest goals of this show is I hope that we start to bridge the gap between security teams and the rest of the organization, right? Instead of just looking at a security team as like, oh, you're just like the parent that tells me I can't do something, but to more so cultivate a relationship to say, hey, I'm not your parent. I'm really just making sure that you're safe. I'm putting up boundaries to make sure that information and things are safe. But from your perspective, Archie, what would you think? How do we accomplish that? Right? Like, how do we break down the walls between security teams and all the the restrictions and things that are in place inside of organizations, and then just the overall convenience that an end user typically wants?
Beautiful, great question. And I would specifically refer it as uh, performance, productivity, and efficiency versus convenience. There may be convenience as one of the major aspects. I may need convenience. I want to just want to get my password saved
Mhm.
in Chrome and a one-click login, and that's all
Yep.
convenience. However, from productivity, efficiency aspect as well, where there may be tool sets that would scan up stuff and then impact the performance of the devices that people operate onto. In that particular context, yes, it's always, and mostly, not always, it's mostly the challenge between a kind of a cats and dogs
Mhm.
situation. And the best part that I enjoy is I'm playing both roles.
Yeah.
So one side, I tell myself that yes, these things should be implemented, and on the other side, I make sure that these implementation would not or should not impact
Mhm.
the performance, the productivity, and add
Yeah.
convenience. In in an analogical term, I would say security today means that you should be at an intersection of a highway
Mhm.
where there are cross paths,
Mhm.
but you still need to be left untouched by any of the
Right.
vehicles. So that's how you need to be at the intersection, but should be secure. So the convenience, the openness, everything is public, everything should be public. Cloud, people have reservation. A lot of decision makers have reservations moving on to cloud, and cloud is something which is bound to
Yep.
happen.
Yep.
Look at Starlink. Look at the combination between the partnership between Microsoft and
Yep.
Google. So in 2023, a lot of stuff would happen
Hmm.
where the entire way of connectivity would be transformed or disruptive from the undersea cable to
Right.
satellites.
Right.
Parallelly, there would be internet reach. For example, the current situation of the uh, tussle between Russia and Ukraine, the connectivity is coming through
Right.
Starlink. So that's the future of connectivity.
Hmm.
Nobody can stop. However, how we need to make sure how those could be secure
Right.
enough, irrespective of the connectivity spreading across. All of that, that's ease, that's comfort,
Hmm.
but that's also needs a lot of more precaution and assurance around the security aspect.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it because the ones I love that you brought that connection up because there's a lot of conversations that I've had, and as you know, I'm still learning. Right, I'm still not the I wouldn't say an expert, right, in this industry, but something that I've learned along the
You are.
way. Thank you. The purpose of these conversations, man, is to hopefully get on your level. But I would say something that I've learned along the way is that there's a lot of um, hesitancy between some companies, going from an on-prem type of environment to a cloud type of environment, right? And I love that you already mentioned, it's happening whether you like it or not, right? It's kind of like the old thing of like, people when people first started to fish, they fished with fishing poles. And then to be more productive and efficient, they started doing nets and everything else, right? And you can be the guy that's complaining and hoping that they go back to fishing with fishing poles, or you can move forward and become the fisherman that goes out with nets, right? It's a completely different, well, very similar in the aspect of that. But I'm glad you brought that up because even some of the solutions that we offer in a company that I work for, we offer both. But I would say even in our statistics, our numbers, 95% of our customers go with cloud compared to an on-prem type of
Yeah,
environment, right? And it's easier. Sometimes you also don't want like the responsibility per se, right?
yeah,
Of like
yeah,
if your on-prem environment crashed or failed or something from that perspective, you can kind of not necessarily point the finger because there's a level of accountability to everything that you do, right? Taking that extreme ownership. But typically, if somebody else is doing security better than you, or they have better security standards, and you can host it in their cloud type of server, their cloud environment, then obviously you have a better, you have more security at the end of the day. If you can secure it there compared to on-prem. So, um,
absolutely, absolutely. And let me just take a moment to add on to what you just
yeah,
mentioned around cloud. So yes, it's spot on. You're spot on about cloud versus on-prem, and it's again the mindset that if it is within my possession, that's secure.
yes,
That's secure. But nobody knows there are interceptions. There could be interceptions in
right.
between. And friends, colleagues who have concerns, who are more concerned around security, moving on to cloud, I ask them a very simple question.
Hmm.
A very simple question that is, what do you think is more secure? A complex password or a lengthy password?
Mm,
So that's the question that I ask. And
that's good.
90% they say it's a complex password
Hmm.
because it's complex, it's hard to remember.
Hmm.
And then I ask them, or in fact, I ask them questions
Hmm.
which lead them to the answer.
Hmm.
Those questions are my first question after that is, um, okay, what is the language computer understands? They say binary.
Hmm.
Okay, fine. But if it is a complex password, that's again converted into binary.
Hmm.
So if you're using a lengthy password, the binary gets lengthier.
Hmm.
So I guess it would take more time to crack a lengthy password versus a complex password is the mental thought process,
Hmm.
which makes me think since it is hard for me to remember, it would be hard for the computers and other devices which are more into computation
Hmm.
to crack them out.
Right.
Although there are subsequent topics around rainbow tables and different brute force, which can lead to other extended conversation. But that's the way I want to drive people so that they could understand, again, the core, where it's not about what they have seen or heard. The logic needs to be applied.
Yes, I love it. I love it. It's the old thought process of instead of teaching people what to think, you teach them how to think, right? changing
Absolutely.
at the thought level, and then now you get a more safer environment, right? Which I'm glad you brought that
Yeah.
up because you also made a very interesting um, comment when we were again offline having a conversation. You talked about um, educating and educating end users, right? And educating people who are using the security software and things inside of organizations so that they are more aware of their part in keeping information and security secure, right? Or information and data, sorry,
Yeah.
secure. Can you expand on that a little bit? And share why that's important, why it's important to educate end users compared to just saying, hey, here's some stuff or here's some limitations, just adhere to it.
Absolutely. Definitely, Eddie. First, from the statistics, from the
Mhm.
numbers, the largest, uh, I mean, the most common uh, attack vector or the attempt or the way people fall into, or let me just step
Yeah.
back. So, social engineering is the foundation of the thought process we should build upon.
Okay.
If we are able to explain individuals, humans, we the humans, understand the not to be carried away with urgency, greed, fear, all of these aspects which are more psychological,
Mhm.
which can be these are all social engineering attempts where through which you'll get some notification through email or through a text message that no, you're losing upon, you'll lose upon the subscription, click on this, make sure that you click before the end of
Right.
day. That's the sense of losing out, the fear of losing out.
Mhm.
And then we accidentally click upon those. And these are the phishing
Yep.
attempts. So the most common attempt is
Yep.
phishing. We either get it through the text messages or through emails.
Mhm.
Now, who are the people who are using those emails? It's we, the users. We can, with the help of tools, applications, we can prevent some level of phishing attempts, but with the zero threats,
Mhm.
with the threats being more advanced, which would be which may have no signatures or
Mhm.
way to detect those phishings. There could be spear phishing as well.
Mhm.
I may be trying to focus you and making sure all the next 10 emails I'll be sending across
Mhm.
would be coming from all your relevant information that I've captured over the periods through social engineering
Mhm.
attempts. And then I'll send phishing emails to you so that I capture the remaining information.
Mhm.
Eventually, with the help of phishing, it's the user, the humans who get impacted.
Mhm.
And that is the reason why the main core foundational fundamental importance is to make people
Mhm.
aware what slightest of ignorance could lead to.
Mhm.
It's not what can happen, but slightest of ignorance can lead to.
Right.
It could be a reputational impact. It could be uh, getting fired from the job,
Yep.
or it could lead to being bankrupt.
Mhm.
So all of such things. It could even lead to cyberbullying. A lot of stuff can
Right.
happen. So there are various creative ways through which we can educate. We can let people know, be aware
Mhm.
about the impact things they can themselves unknowingly, ignorantly lead
Right.
to. And some of the initiatives like especially during the holiday season, let's say Christmas, New Year,
Mhm.
that's the best time for all the malware, all the bad guys to send across malwares, phishing emails,
Mhm.
and that's the best time, and that's the time when we make sure people are well informed, well aware, they have the thought process.
Mhm.
If they have kept it under the hood,
Yep.
that should pop up with those mindsets and be aware. So we create such kind of a simulations where they get, okay, I got an email getting an Amazon voucher of, let's say,
Right.
$1,000. Wow, let me click. And the moment they click, they'll get a message that this could lead to XYZ
Yep.
thing. And this is how you can learn.
Mhm.
So that way people learn more. I mean, with gamification, people learn more.
Yes.
And that's how that is so important and helpful.
Right. It's like it's the idea of applied knowledge, right? And it goes back to what we
Yeah.
already mentioned in this conversation as well, right? The fact that if you show people how to think compared to what to think, it helps. How you do that best is by giving them something to do, right? Like the activity, the action of doing something. so then that way it resonates or burns inside of their mind a lot better than just an
Absolutely.
email that comes out and say, hey, look out for phishing attacks. Right.
Exactly.
Like one of the
Exactly.
things,
Exactly.
I'll be honest, with basically our cyber guru that we have internally here at Datalocker, I love that he takes the time and he's available. I think that's another aspect, and I want to definitely hear your thoughts on this too. Is he's available to all of us? He's not like the guy that sits in a room and nobody ever talks to him, right? Unless they have a concern or whatever else. I would say William is so available if we do have questions, or if we get an email that does look a little fishy or weird or whatever else. He is not degrading, right, to people who, like, people in the organization who are not necessarily aware, right? They're ignorant to the fact of, like, well, I don't know, this could be good, this could not be good. But like he's open and honest and willing to take the time to communicate and say, hey, here's the issue, or here's why this is a bad thing, not just saying like, no, don't click on that. Does that make sense? Like,
Absolutely. And the world need such people because it's easy for passing on instructions and eventually giving out no information, only the instructions, which actually, I mean, if let's say if you're leading a team or if you're developing a
mhm,
team, that's again highly important, because if you're only giving the instructions, not giving the intent
mhm,
of why and how is definitely
mhm.
helpful. However, the intent of why is not explained well. You're developing
Yep,
robots, and then AI is going to come up and take up your job.
yep.
So better focus on developing intelligent human
I
beings.
love it. I love it. And it keeps on coming back to developing people, right?
Yeah,
In today's
yeah,
world,
absolutely.
I think we've learned now more than ever that people is what's most important, right? People is the most important asset of any organization. It's the people. So at the end of the day, you
Yes,
have to invest in those people to make sure that they are aware, they understand the threats that comes along with um, working, working and
yeah,
having access to data that a lot of other people want.
absolutely, absolutely.
So
I spent almost like
no, go
sorry,
ahead. You spent
yeah.
almost. Go ahead. Continue with that.
Yeah, I spent almost like 4 years
Hmm.
in a series when I mean, as a hobby, whenever I was able to spare some
Yep.
time, giving out lectures in universities, colleges, and helping and developing, I mean, creating the interest into
Mm,
cybersecurity so that people, because eventually my focus, the reason why I did that
mm,
is because if you focus the students who are into college and then getting into a professional
mm,
journey, if we focus onto that, they may be bankers, they may be doctors, and everywhere cybersecurity is important.
mm.
Even from, let's say, hospitality, it's important because the moment you're checking in, you're giving your
Yep.
details to at the reception at the booking
Yep.
center, and how they maintain the data, how they scrutinize it.
Mm,
A lot of threats, a lot of impacts have been great examples.
mm,
So everybody on this planet needs to be aware about cybersecurity and its impact, irrespective of the domain. It's not only a technological scope
mm.
where only the technical people should be aware. It's for the teachers. It's for, I mean, everyone who is using any digital device.
Absolutely. And I love that. I love that you mentioned that, because this is one of the things that I love to do, right? I love to kind of share what other things that we are aware of that can educate people on that, right? Because let's be honest, we don't live in a
Yes.
perfect world where everyone has access to their CISO or to their security team to ask questions like this. So if you are a
Yeah.
teacher, or you're a blue collar worker, right? Anybody in this world, where are simple places where these people can go to learn about these things? Do you have any like podcast recommendations, maybe book recommendations, blog account, whatever? Like, do you have any of those resources that people can use to educate themselves?
Absolutely, absolutely. I usually share. I when I'm conducting any session or at the colleges and around, I create a deck of
Okay.
presentation and also some reference points and some giveaways. And even I mean on my own expense, I take out some goodies so
Hmm.
that I could encourage a Q&A
Hmm.
and all of those stuff. So that was something that I've been enjoying doing. And
Nice.
yes, a central repository, lot of source of information that we can share. Yeah, that's available.
Absolutely. I love it. I'm gonna definitely have to put that in the show notes for people to find at some point.
Sure, sure.
That's good to know. Now, what I do want to, because I know we're getting close to a time here, and I want to be respectful of your time as well. But just curious, Archie, now that you've been in cybersecurity for some time, right? You're not a spring chicken. You've been here for a while, right? Um,
15 years.
15 very short years, right? Just curious, man. Like you're how has like the industry changed over 15 years? Do you feel like there's been an extensive amount of change? Do you feel like things are just constantly changing on a daily basis? Like it grows too fast for us to even um internalize or understand? Just overall thoughts on like the industry in itself and how it has expanded or what that market looks like over the last 15 years.
Great question. And I would say it's not the industry, it's the humans again who have become
Hmm.
intelligent. Because if I go back, when we started in DOS, disk operating system, or Windows 3.1, there weren't even any antivirus. There wasn't any application or software that was there to prevent from any of the threats. We have
Wow.
been running operating systems. We have been using even up till, I mean, I remember even up till Windows 95.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe some point in time Windows 98 as well.
Hmm.
There weren't any antiviruses. People had an option to put in an
Hmm.
antivirus just for the sake of it, so that yeah, I'm happy that things viruses are not
Right.
coming, and I would be able to prevent them, prevent my system from that.
Hmm.
And that's again because of intelligence of the humans. Because if humans have been more intelligent back then,
Hmm.
the business of virus and antivirus would have started much more
Right.
sooner, right?
Right.
and and now the intelligence, the creativity is so great.
Hmm.
I would say I love that. In fact, if you go onto dark web, if you go onto any such informative
Hmm.
area for just for threat hunting, for information hunting, you'll find, I mean, on real time basis, it's just like population, malware is also being
Right.
populated
Right.
as the population is growing. So, and you get all those details like, okay, that doesn't have even a signature. There's no way it can be detected.
Hmm.
So the graph has been exponential. It had been linear for a while, then curve,
Hmm.
and then now superlatively exponential. And as the technology, again, people being very highly intellectual from both sides now, as satellite and AI and all of those are there. So it's just like the soldier and the other
Right.
side. So and it's always that kind of a
Hmm.
combination. So as the technology is evolving, there would be a red team and a blue team, and a good and bad,
Yep.
stick and a carrot.
Yep.
So as technology is evolving, there are people who are there to bring that down.
Hmm.
So which one or who remains the smarter side, that's the decision maker around, let's say, any breach may
Right.
happen.
Right.
So that's how breach happen, whichever is the smarter side. So that's how I've seen in the summary, I would say it has been an exponential journey, and it's technology humans have evolved over the period, and it's not stopping anytime sooner.
Hmm.
It's going on to Mars.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it because that's. I mean, like you said, it's a lot of expansion, a lot of growth that's happened in the industry, and like you said, as things continue to get better, the technologies get better, then there's going to be somebody trying to poke holes at it, right? Always somebody trying to poke holes at it, and we would hope
Yes.
that the person that's poking holes is the good people compared to the bad people, right? So that when the good people figure it out, those holes can be patched, fixed, and improved on, whatever else it may be, right? Instead of exploited.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome, man. So real quick, I guess with that being said, the transition that's happened over the years, is there any um I would say challenges that you would say for the next generation of security leaders that's coming on right now, right? Is there any challenges that you feel as though like, man, this is something that you need to be on the lookout for, or something that you just need to have on your radar, because it's either come a little bit to the forefront for your position that you're in right now, or it's something that maybe that you've been exposed to, but not necessarily, a lot of others have. Just curious to know if you have, suggestions for what this next generation should be aware of in the next 15 years that they should start to pay attention to.
Definitely, Eddie, and it's coming from my
Hmm.
experience and whatever limited experience I have over the period, not only the 15 years into security, but beyond the technological and infrastructure experience that I had, focused on the customer side.
Hmm.
Now, I'll go usually, and that's my approach, and that's what I usually share with
Hmm.
people to actually resonate with that kind of mindset and thought
Hmm.
process. Is not to run after the technology or gaining skills in a specific domain as a specialization.
Hmm.
Build your capabilities grounds up,
Hmm.
starts from the basics, even from, I mean, if you're not able to understand social engineering, if then cultivate over risk and then get into
Hmm.
technology, that would create, and it's actually by
Right.
design, thought thought process by design, technology by design, security by design, and then moving it onwards. That would create great security professionals
Hmm.
versus those who take specialization. Let's say I want to choose network security, and that's my career goal. I may be focusing on to network security as a whole. However, cloud may evolve and disrupt the network security into a complete different kind of network
Hmm.
environment. My entire learning would go down. It would not be at par with the current trends, and I would have to link and resonate with other technology trends
Hmm.
at that point in time. So instead of moving ahead
Hmm.
swiftly, fast, take short steps,
Hmm.
learn by design, and then evolve into a great professional. And best part to learn is to share, as you and
Absolutely.
me both agree on to.
Definitely. 100%. I love it. Absolutely love it. Well, perfect, my
Me
man.
too.
That's I think, Archie, I'm gonna be honest. I think you just got a wealth of knowledge, man, a wealth of information. And I love your people first mentality when it comes to um, security, right? When it comes to any position of leadership, it seems like from your perspective, it's a people first mentality, and I think that's very important for the people that you manage and oversee, but also the clients that you serve, right? I think anybody can have a conversation with you and see that that's the case. And know that their best interest is at heart, right? It's just not you trying to get something from them. So I appreciate the time that you took to really share your insights, your experiences. But I do want to give you an opportunity to add, if there's any extra nugget, anything extra that you wanted to just leave as like, hey, here's my mic drop moment. I want to make sure that somebody is aware of this. I'm gonna open the floor to you to share any final closing thoughts.
Thanks, Eddie, and really, this has been a great podcast, and really enjoyed every bit of it, every moment of it, because the conversation, the thought process that we are sharing for the viewers, I hope something resonates, even a bit of it resonates. That I believe that would help, because over my journey, over my entire due course of journey, whatever I've learned is through. I mean, for having a mentor. I mean,
Mhm.
that's something which is very important. Having a role model. If you don't have, there's a. I'm not sure if many people have read about it, but it's about, even if you don't have a mentor, at least have a role model.
Mhm.
It's not necessary. You can definitely. You're blessed if you have a
Yep.
mentor. But if you couldn't find somebody who can guide you, correct you at
Mm-hmm.
time, and guide you and structure you in the right manner, at least have a role model whom you admire, maybe not
Mm-hmm.
reachable. That is something which has made me, I mean, over the due course, my entire professional journey, my personal journey, I've been a better human being, better
Mm-hmm.
person, because fortunately, I have got great mentors, and really admire how they have structured me. I mean, the very the time to time people tell you where you are lacking, or the way you're getting the right advice onto your
Mm-hmm.
face, helping you out. That's what mentorship truly
Mm-hmm.
helps, being a better human being, better professional. So seek out for that.
I love it. I love it. Well, there you have it, guys. Our guy, Archie Jackson, sharing all kinds of truth bombs right now, talking about security, talking about people, talking about bridging a gap between security teams and the people that they serve. And also just overall how to be a great human being, right? Great leadership concepts, great thought process here. And I hope you guys all learned a little bit about it. And if so, feel free to reach out to myself or Archie. Archie, what's the best way for everybody to reach you, man? Is it through LinkedIn? Let them know the best way to get in contact with you.
LinkedIn is the fastest and easiest way to reach out to me.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate the time and look forward to seeing you on the next one.